Let me introduce myself. My name is Kartika Putri Dewayani, and I'm honored to be your master of ceremony for today's event. Alhamdulillahirabbil alamin wa bihi nasta'in ala umurid dunya waddin wassalatu wassalamu ala asrofil anbiya wal mursalin sayyidina wa maulana Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajmain amma ba'du. First of all, let us express our gratitude to Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala who has blessed us with health and the opportunity to gather in this meaningful event. I would also like to thank the BSI Scholarship Committee and all the BSI Prestasi awardee who have joined today. Your presence means a lot to this agenda. Okay, before moving forward, I like to remind everyone for a few important things to make sure today's session runs ensure smooth and productive sessions. First, please mute your microphone unless directed to me or the presenter. And the second, if your internet connections allow, kindly turn on your camera so we can have a more engaging and interactive session. And the third is stay focused during the session to maximize the knowledge we gain today. And the next one, be active and responsive to question or directions from both the MC and the presenter. Lastly, don't forget to rename your Zoom display name using this format, full name underscore university. Di sampel like Kartika Pridewani underscore Universitas Brawijaya. Okay, let me repeat again. Don't forget to rename your Zoom display name using this format, full name underscore university. Full name underscore university. Okay. Good morning again, everyone. How are you today? Okay, I hope you are all feeling good and excited because today's topic is closely related to our field of study and is sure to be insightful. Are you ready for today's session? Feel free to share your thoughts in the chat box. Okay, I think everyone is feel excited for this session, and I hope all of you can stay focused throughout this agenda. Don't forget to remind your group mates or friends who haven't joined yet to be part of this meaningful session. Okay, to begin today's event with blessing, I would like to invite Najwa Amalia Mansur to recite a few verses from the Quran followed by a prayer. Sister Najwa Amalia Mansur, the time is yours.
Thank you. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. حرمت عليكم الميتة والدم ولحم الخنزير وما أهل لغير الله به والمنخنقات والموقودة والمتردية والنطيحة وما أكل السبوع إلا ما ذكيتم وما ذبح على النصب وأن تستقسموا بالأزلام ذلكم فسق علينا يئس الذين كفروا من دينكم فلا تخشوهم واخشون اليوم أكملت لكم دينكم وأتممت عليكم نعمتي ورضيت لكم الإسلام دينا فمن اضطر في مخمصة غير متجانف لإثم فإن الله غفور رحيم. Forbidden to you are carrion, blood, and swine. What is slaughtered in the name of any other than Allah? What is killed by strangling, beating, a fall, or by being worked to death? What is partly eaten by a predator unless you slaughter it? And what is sacrificed on altars? You are also forbidden to draw lots for decisions. This is all evil. Today the disbelievers have given up all hope of undermining your faith. So do not fear them. Fear me. Today I have perfected your faith for you, completed my favor upon you, and chosen Islam as your way. But whoever is compelled by extreme hunger, not intending to sin, then surely Allah is all forgiving, most merciful.
Amin, amin ya rabbal alamin. Thank you, Najwa Amalia Mansur, for the beautiful recitation and heartful prayers. May this blessing guide us and reach and our event today. Okay, the next part of our agenda is the lecture. I can see that everyone here is excited to learn about today's topic, Islamic worldview and Islamic economic perspective, which will be delivered by an amazing expert in this field. But before we begin the lecture, let me take a moment to introduce our speaker and share a little about their incredible background. Okay, Professor Dr. Asad Zaman, economics with impressive academic achievement. He holds a Bachelor of Science in Mathematics from MIT in 1974, a Master in Statistics in 1976, and a PhD in Economics from Stanford University in 1978. Recently, Professor Dr. Asad Zaman has been actively involved in projects to decolonize the social science and rebuild human knowledge on Islamic epistemological foundations. He recently retired as the Vice Chancellor of the Pakistan Institute of Development Economics and has served on influential committees such as the Monetary Policy Committee of the State Bank of Pakistan. Without long waiting, please welcome Professor Dr. Asad Zaman. Assalamualaikum, Professor Dr. Asad Zaman.
وعليكم السلام.
Oh, how are you today, Prof?
Alhamdulillah, everything is fine. How are you?
I'm very, very good. Okay, are you ready to deliver the lecture regarding Islamic worldview?
Inshallah.
Okay, but before we start the lecture, I remind to all participants to focus, be active, and prepare questions as much as you can. Since we learn from experts today, don't waste our time. You may raise your hand in the Q&A session, or write the question in column chat or write in the Slido. We are truly honored to welcome esteemed speaker, Professor Dr. Asad Zaman, to today's session. Professor Dr. Asad Zaman, the floor is yours.
Okay, thank you very much. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. It is this young generation which will shape the future of the Ummah. And so, inshallah, I have great hopes from the youth that they will be able to do things which the elder generation was not able to do. And let me now share my screen to start the presentation. Okay, and now I would like to do the slideshow from beginning. Oops, ये कहाँ से हो गया? This is the wrong one. Okay, I have to escape. Yeah, this is the one. All right, Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. So, oh, I should set up the slideshow. So, today we are going to talk about three generations of Islamic economic. First generation, second generation, and third generation. So the talk is divided into two halves. The first half of the talk will be about the history, about the how Islamic economics has developed over the past century. And the second half will be about how we can use and apply ideas of third generation Islamic economics to change the world.
Excuse me, Prof. The screen that you share screen isn't show to us.
Oh, the slide sharing is not showing to you?
Yes.
Um, it says you are screen sharing. Okay, so what I'll do is I'll stop share and start it again, and maybe it will work this time. Okay,
Okay.
so I will stop share and then I will share again. Yeah, here it is. Now is it working?
Yes, we can see it. Thank you, Prof.
Okay, so you can see the talk now. So the goals for the first half of this talk is that we are asking the question, why did Islamic economics start in the 20th century? This is very strange because if it's something Islamic, then it should have started from the time of the Prophet. But for 20 centuries, we don't have any subject like Islamic economics. And then in 20th century, Islamic economics emerges. So why? And then we will see that there were two generations actually, first generation and second generation, and they had very different ideas about Islamic economics. And then more recently, basically since the past 20 years or so, there is a third generation, which is so basically I'll say that first generation and second generation both did not succeed in achieving their goals. And inshallah, the third generation will. All right, so the first thing to start understand is that any theory about society we live in is continuously changing and evolving. We can see it change in front of our own eyes. We know that Indonesia 20 years ago wasn't like Indonesia is today. Pakistan 20 years ago had a very different culture and politics and economics. So everything is changing. So, because society is changing, theories about society must also be changing because they have to keep up. So this is called co-evolution. As society evolves, the theory about the society must also change. If you think about the world, there are so many different societies and cultures and economies. So the same theory cannot be applied to all of them. The theory must be adapted to the society. So the critical learning from this is that social theories are contextual, that they are shaped by the historical and cultural experience. So, for example, Western economic theory that we are studying actually emerged in European Industrial Revolution, and it is designed for capitalist economies. So it is not applicable to agricultural societies or feudal societies or communist societies. So one theory does not work in all places. And so if you want to develop an economic theory for Indonesia, it must be adapted to the specific conditions of Indonesia. And an economic theory for Pakistan will be very different from an economic theory for Indonesia. So this leads to a number of puzzles, questions. In the economics textbooks that you have studied, there is no mention of this idea. They don't say that this economic theory was developed in the UK and the US and Europe, and it applies only to UK and USA and Europe. it does not apply to Asia, it doesn't apply to Africa, it doesn't apply. They don't say that. They say that our theory works for the whole world. So why? Because it's not true. And since it is obvious that the theory of economy for an advanced industrial economy like USA will not be the same as the theory for Pakistan, which has a very huge share in agriculture. It exports raw materials and imports advanced technology. So US has the opposite kind of economic structure. So why do we believe that theories written in Western textbooks apply to our economy? This is a puzzle. So the solution to the puzzle is, it's a long and complex story, which I have given elsewhere, the solution. But roughly speaking, for about 1 century in Europe, they did not have wars between European countries. And so they thought that their theory of social science was working well. But when World War I broke out in 1914, it was a catastrophic event for Europe. And everybody said that the traditional method of doing social science, which was qualitative and historical, is wrong because it could not prevent the world war. And so a new theory of social science emerged in early 20th century, only about 100 years ago. And the new theory was said that we should apply scientific method to study human society. So the thing is that the methodology of social science was changed radically in early 20th century. And for 100 years, we have been using this theory. Now you know that science is universal. The law of gravity is the same in Pakistan and in Indonesia, in UK, and it's the same 100 years ago and it will be the same 100 years later. But human society is not the same. So when they applied scientific method to study human society, this is what the world social science tells you, then they made a mistake. They said that we will find laws, universal laws, which work the same in all societies. So this was a huge mistake, and there is no, this mistake is continuing. So there is a detailed essay on this, which I have linked here. That's why the West thinks that their theories are universal because they're applying the wrong methodology. The second thing is, why do we believe this? Well, a simple answer is that because the whole Islamic world was colonized and we became slaves to their thinking, so we believe in Western theories without understanding them. So I've already explained that science cannot be used to study human society because science studies the external world, the chemistry, the biology, the astronomy, the physics. These are things outside the human beings, but our lives are not subject to laws. You cannot write a mathematical formula which will tell you what you are doing because we can choose what we do. And also, the societies are not subject to the universal laws. The laws of economics 100 years ago are different from the laws of economics today. And so, we need to keep our theories contextual in the place where we are in terms of what is happening today. The science is about the external world, which remains the same. The stars remain the same, the orbits remain the same, the laws of physics the same. But we human beings can change history, we can change the way we think, we can change our society. So, here's just a simple example to show that Keynesian economics was created to address the problem created by Great Depression in 1929. But today, the modern Western economies are very different from the economies of 100 years ago. And so Keynesian theory it does not deal with the financial markets, which are the most important things in the past 50 years. And so Keynesian theory doesn't really apply very well to global financial crisis. And similarly, Keynes developed a theory to solve unemployment problem in USA, UK 100 years ago. These theories will not work very well to solve unemployment problems in Pakistan and Indonesia. So the key point is that economic theory must be studied within the historical context in which they are developed. So once we understand this, then also we understand that Islamic economics also developed in response to historical context. It was history of Islamic world which shaped the emergence of Islamic economics. It is not a universal theory. Islamic economics today is not the same as it was 30 years ago, and is not the same as it was 60 years ago. So, to understand Islamic economics, we have to understand the history of how Islamic economics came to be in the 20th century. So, a question which we asked is, why did Islamic economics emerge in the 20th century? And the answer is that over the 19th century, the European countries started to colonize the world. And by the early 20th century, about 90% of the Islamic world was under the European control or influence. But then World War I in 1914 and World War II in 1942 caused a lot of damage to Europe. And this is what allowed independence struggles to succeed. So, all around the world, countries which were colonized gained their freedom. But freedom doesn't come free. To fight for freedom, you have to have an ideology. You have to have force, but you also have an ideology. So, first generation Islamic economics, which I abbreviate as 1GIE, is the ideology that, once we get rid of the colonization, we will develop our own economic system, which is just and equitable and which provides welfare to the masses. This would be very different from the colonial system. The colonial system was an extractive system. It took billions of dollars of resources from around the world and transferred them to European powers. So we can ask the question, why is Europe very rich and why is the Islamic world very poor? The answer is very simple. Over the period of colonization, they stole the resources from all over the Islamic world and transferred them to Europe. So we became poor because everything we had was taken by the colonizers, and they became rich because they have all of our resources. So this was a very unjust system, and Islamic economics promised to end this system and create a new system built on justice and equity and welfare for all. But this did not happen. Why did 1GIE fail? Why could not they deliver on their promise? The problem is that after freedom, Islamic system didn't come into being because the people who started to rule all over the world was what we can call the coconut class. That is, they are brown on the outside, but white on the inside. The colonizers had trained westernized elites to rule on their behalf. And these people continued to rule after the freedom. So after the freedom, there was not much change in policies and in politics and in economics. the same policies that were applied in the colonial period were continued after the independence. As a result, the revolutionary ideas of Islamic economics could not be applied. So then political Islam came into being to fight for freedom against the colonizers. But after the freedom was achieved, the thinkers in the Muslim world realized that that getting freedom did not actually give us uh, political freedom. The regimes that were dominant around the globe were puppet regimes. They were controlled and manipulated by the Western powers. And they created economic policies which favored the West and went against the interests of the masses. So political Islam changed its policy. Instead of fighting colonizers, they started fighting the puppet regimes. But as a result, Islamic economics was put on the back side, because until you have the political control, you cannot implement the Islamic economic system. So they said, okay, let's first get control of the government, then we will start implementing Islamic economic system. But this did not happen. Even though political Islam was very popular with the people, it could not succeed in launching revolutions in any country around the world for at least 20, 30 years. Why? Because the global system that was in place was very favorable to the West, and the West had a lot of power devoted to suppressing popular movements. So, rulers and dictators ruled the world on behalf of the West. When somebody would succeed, some indigenous Islamic leader would succeed, then they would be replaced by CIA, regime change. There is a movie, Coup 1953, which shows how the popular political leader of Iran was replaced by this Reza Shah Pahlavi in 1953 by a CIA operation. So one of the lessons of this is that the masses, the people, do not have enough power to challenge the global capitalist system. So this led to the birth of second generation Islamic economics. In the 1970s, there was a big conference in Mecca, the first International Islamic Economics Conference. And people said that, look, we are not going to get control. We have been trying for 25 years and it hasn't happened, and it's not going to happen. So instead of taking a revolutionary approach, instead of saying that let's get rid of capitalism and replace it by an Islamic economic system, let's just work with capitalism. And so instead of eliminating, they said, okay, let's adjust and modify capitalism. But this was based on a problem that, so the second generation Islamic economics is like saying that, okay, we take capitalism, but we add zakat and we take out interest. This was actually a formula that was used. So this time, instead of saying that no capitalism and new Islamic system, we just say modify capitalism to create an Islamic system. But the problem is that Islamic economics is radically different from capitalism. Capitalism is about maximization of pleasure and power and profits, but Islamic economics is about maximizing service to humanity for the love of God. Capitalism is about individualism, greed, competition. The idea is that the society is like a jungle with animals competing with each other and survival of the fittest. But Islamic economics is built on harmony, love. All of the humanity is the family of God, and so we have responsibility, no individualism. We care about our family and our neighborhood and our society. And we don't believe in greed, we believe in generosity. If we have more, we give to the others. And we don't believe in competition, we believe in cooperation. So, obviously, the two systems, you cannot adjust capitalism to make it Islamic. So, my book on Islamic economics, the polar opposite of capitalist economics, has been translated into Indonesian language and is available, and also into Turkish language and into Bangladeshi language, and some others are in process. So, this second generation Islamic economics did not succeed in doing anything. If you ask, okay, so for 30 years you have been doing second generation Islamic economics, what is the achievement? What have you done? So the answer is nothing. When the global financial crisis occurred in 2007, this led to a crisis in economics. Economic theory was seen to be very bad because it could not even prevent the crisis. And second generation Islamic economics accepted the ideas of conventional economics, mainstream economics. So it was also went into crisis. And there is more details available here. So the failure of modern economics to prevent or predict the global financial crisis, and also the failure of second generation Islamic economics to provide helpful policies to the Islamic world. So if there is a good Islamic economics, it should tell us what should we be doing, how can we avoid economic crisis, how can we create a good economic system which helps the Islamic world. So the second generation did not have any answers to these questions. So that is what led to the birth of third generation Islamic economics. Now, over the past 30 years, many new fields have developed within economics. So, even though Islamic economics did not provide any useful inputs, environmental economics made a lot of progress, poverty studies made a lot of progress, community driven development, sustainable development, and many other fields. Now, the interesting thing is that all of these fields would be part of a properly formulated Islamic economics. So, if we develop third generation Islamic economics, we can do environmental, we can do poverty, we can do community, we can do sustainable. All of this would come into one framework. And if we had done Islamic economics right, we would have been the leaders in this field. But because we did not we built Islamic economics as a modification and not as a revolution. So other people took the lead in those areas. So today we still have a golden opportunity. Islamic economics has a lot of deep insights to offer, which are not available in the modern world. So some of the things that we need to do in third generation is that we realize that it's not possible to get control of the politics. The political system is not uncontrolled. So, what we should do is instead of focusing on getting the government in control, we should focus on the local community, the masjid, the neighborhood. And again, instead of working on states which divide the ummah, we should work on the ummah itself. So, that's one aspect. And the second thing is capitalism is built on overproduction, massive excess production, excess consumption, and excess labor. We all work very hard to produce a lot of goods, and these goods are useless. They are beyond our needs. So we should minimize our consumption, minimize our production, minimize our labor, and focus on building our community, focus on love, social bonds, and building a society. So I'm working on a new textbook on third generation Islamic economics, and some references which describe this are given on this page. The organizer will make the slides available to everyone, inshallah. So now we come to the second half. So this describes the historical context of first, second, and third generation. Very briefly, there is a lot more detail. Now I want to go to policy implications. What can we do with third generation Islamic economics? So if you want to create social change, and that's what we want to do, we don't like what we see today in the world. We see inequality, we see poverty, we see that billions of people are living below um, poverty line, while there are 10 people who have half of the wealth of the world. So, massive inequity. Some people are living like millionaires, while children don't have milk to drink. So, if we want to change this world, how should we do it? So, there are three dimensions that we need to work on. First, we have to uh, have the normative or prescriptive dimension. What is the ideal society that we want to create? So, this has been given to us in Islam. The Islamic teachings tell us what the ideal society looks like. Then we have the descriptive. What is the current situation on the ground? This is also called positive. So understand where we stand, understand where we want to go. And then we have the transformative. What is the method of traveling from here to there? So this is the three-dimensional methodology for social change. So there are some general principles. We must start from where we are. This is the a big mistake. People say, okay, once we get the government, then we will start doing work. So that's useless. People say, okay, if we were all having good Islamic values, we had honesty, integrity, no corruption, then we would be able to create change. So that's useless. You're starting from where you want to be, not from where you are. Let's look at the situation on the ground and say, what can I do to change this situation? Okay, one more thing that we need to do is to look around the society, look at the current position and see what is good in this. Today, the Muslims are always thinking this is bad and that is bad and this is wrong and that is wrong. This doesn't help. Say, okay, what are we doing good? What are we doing right? And build on the strength. This is called the motherhood theory. See, when you have a child and he's trying to learn how to walk, he will often get up and fall. But sometimes he will take one step or two steps and then he will fall. And then instead of we saying, oh, look, what a stupid child, he fell, we say, oh, wow, what a great thing you did. You managed to do two steps. Wonderful. So you see, the point is that you look at what is good, not the weakness, but the strength. The second thing is that, okay, the third thing is that you set small, achievable goals. Don't say that, okay, I'm going to change the world and then give up because you can't change the world. Say, I'm going to change my mahalla, my community, my neighborhood. If that is too big, say, okay, I'm going to change my family. So take a small step, but something where you can do something. And also, you should be flexible. If you try to do something, say, okay, I'm going to try to clean up the mahalla, and I ask everybody to help, and nobody helps. So I say, okay, I give up. It's not useless to do something, and I will just deal with my individual life. No. If something fails, try something else. Change your goals, change the task, make it smaller, or change the methodology, how you were approaching it. So keep trying things until you succeed. Now, critical in third generation is that we change our focus. Conventional microeconomics deals with the individual, but Islamic microeconomics, third generation Islamic, deals with the community. Our basic unit of action is the community, the neighborhood. You have a masjid and you have a set of houses around it. That is the community. That's the smallest unit of action. And mainstream macroeconomics deals with nations: Indonesia, Pakistan, Bangladesh, India, UK. These are the nations, and macroeconomics deals with economics at the nation. But we don't want to deal with the nation. The nations are dividing up the ummah. So Islamic macro deals with the ummah as a whole. So if we think about a policy, we ask what will the effect be on the ummah of Muslims, not on what will happen in Indonesia and what will happen in Pakistan. We want to think of all of the Muslims together. So this is a big difference in third generation, because second generation still is working with the same framework as conventional micro. But in third generation, we abandon that. So our micro will deal with the community and our macro will deal with the ummah. So what can we do at the level of the micro? So as I said, we have to build on strengths. So what are the strengths in the Islamic world? One is the family. This is critical. Family is completely broken in the West. Today, in the West, more than half of the children who are born to single mothers, not within family. They never enjoy the love of mother and father in a protective home. In Islamic world, still we have strong families, but we should not be comfortable. The forces which destroyed the families in the West are very strong and are gaining strength in the Islamic world. So families are weakening, divorces are increasing, lot of anti-family things are going on in the Islamic world. So we have to work on protecting the family. The masjid is a very important strength. All around the world, masajid exist and people go for prayers. The goal of this prayer, 5 times being together, was to build a community so that everybody comes together, they talk about their local problems, they discuss how to solve. But this is not happening. Today, masjid is only a place where you go and you make prayer and you come back and you don't even know the name of the person who you prayed next to. So we have to work on building neighborhoods and uniting communities, uniting the hearts of the community and getting them to work together. And we have to promote some simple lifestyles. No israf, no tabzir, and don't engage too much with capitalism. Don't think as capitalists do, that the purpose of our life is to earn money. And so we work all day to earn money. Minimize the amount of, make your life very simple and make your work less. And all over the Islamic world, in the masjid, there is usually a committee which runs the affairs of the masjid. It makes sure that there is water and electricity. So this committee exists. They manage finance. So we should build on this and ask the masjid committees to expand their role. Start providing social services, make sure that there is nobody hungry, arrange for education of children living in the neighborhood, arrange for healthcare, and collaborate with other masjid committees nearby. So a key organization which we want to create is Munazzamatul Khidmatul Jama'ah, which is the organization for serving the community of the masjid. So we already have these organizations. In many places, the people who are in the masjid committee, they are thinking about the problems, but we need to make this more formal. Make sure that masjid committee is thinking about the problems of the neighborhood, and the women's committee also needs to be uh, organized, because there are lots of things that women can do that men cannot do, and in particular organizing people meeting each other at homes and discussing what are the problems and how can we solve them. And finally, if we can get these organized, these masjid committees, then one of the key goals is to try to create self-reliant neighborhoods. Make sure that our food and our energy is available to us. This is in keeping in mind the climate crisis. So now in a rural area, you can arrange to produce your own food, but in an urban area, you cannot. If you have a neighborhood inside a city, it is unlikely that they will be able to grow their own food because they don't have enough land. So what you can do is you can do pairing. Take an urban community and take a rural community and pair them up. And so this can be arranged via the Munazamatul Khidmatul Jama'ah. So that will be a win-win solution, because the urban community will be able to buy relatively cheap food from their rural partner, and the rural partner will also be able to avoid the middleman and get better prices from their city partners. But since we are dealing with Islamic banking and finance, a critical step will be to transform the Islamic banks. Today, Islamic banks are the same as commercial banks in the sense that they are also trying to do profit maximization. So the honest trader will be with the Siddiqeen and the Shuhada and the Salihin, because he has the niyyah to serve God. So we should ask the Islamic banks to shift their goal to serve the communities for the love of God. So how can we do this? The Islamic banks can use the profits to provide. It's involves changing this priority. Instead of maximizing profits, we want to maximize service to the community, and we make profits so that we can continue operations, we can provide services, we can make improvement in the infrastructure for the bank, for the provision of services, and for make profits to keep money for the sake of emergencies. So profits is not the goal. Profits is used to for the operational side. The goal is to maximize service. This is a critical change. And so now, how will we serve the community? For this, the Islamic Bank has to partner with the Munazamatul Khidmatul Jama'ah, the communities. The communities will be represented by the MKJs, and the Islamic banks will partner with them because the communities know what is needed. So, but they won't have the money necessarily. So they can get money in form of loans and investments from the Islamic banks to provide service to the community. A practical step is to create a dual bottom line. Okay, so we on the one hand, we look at profits to make sure that the bank is operational, but also we keep track of what is the social service being provided. So that's a separate bottom line. So in the Western system, profit is the only thing. But in the Islamic system, we look at how much social service we can provide while making reasonable profits enough to keep the business going. So once we start changing the ways of thinking, there are many new things we can do. One of the things that would be very useful is to invest in people instead of investing in machinery. or in other things, because the people are the most precious. And Allah Ta'ala says that one life is like that of the entire mankind. So human beings are very precious in the eyes of Allah. So make sure that they can be productive. And so one of the very important methodologies to make people productive is to provide tools like sewing machines or cows or chicken stocks and training, so that people can become self sufficient. They can have some asset which they can use to produce their own income. And this can be, once they start producing their income, then they can repay the loan, which would be at zero interest according to the Islamic law. Also, there are life loans. Every child which is born deserves to live. And so, for 15 years or 20 years, until the child is capable of becoming a productive adult, all his needs should be taken care of. In the first place, his parents can take care, and in the second place, the community. But if the need is bigger, then the Islamic Bank should be there to provide loans to all children who need them or deserve them until they become productive. And when they become productive, then they can pay back from the earnings. So, this is a type of loan that the Islamic Bank should be always ready to make. And finally, basically, the driver of change will be the community. So, in the first generation model, the driver of change was going to be the nation state. Once we have the government, then this will do the changing. But no, instead, we say that we will start the change from our home, from where we stand. So look at your neighborhood and start doing things together. Collective action is the secret to change. But of course, local community is a small thing and can only do small things. So, what we do is we link the communities locally and regionally and globally. So, you see, Islam has taught us already how to do this. We have 5 days daily prayers at our local masjid, but then the Jummah is a masjid jamia. It collects many masajid. So Jummah is not at your local masjid. Jummah is at a masjid which is big and in which people from many different masajid come. So a lot of different local masajid gathered together for Jummah. Then at Eid, uh, after Ramadan, you have very big Eidgah prayers. So that is when a lot of people, the whole city can come together. And so you have increasing levels of mashwara. One is local, and then there is community, and then there is city, and then there is ummah level, which is the Eid al-Adha, at which the whole ummah gathers in Makkah and Medina. So if we can create mashwara, people talk with each other and discuss their problems and find pathway to solution and unite the ummah. So instead of working at the state level, at the government level, we work at the local level. So I have a neighborhood, suppose in Pakistan, we have a developing olive industry, but it is new, getting started. So we can say, okay, in Turkey, they have been growing olives for centuries, and they have lots of villages where they have experts. So we can do a neighborhood to neighborhood exchange. We can ask people from Turkey who live in olive industry villages, and we can ask them to come visit us and provide us with their expertise. We have a coastline and a lot of potential for growing palms, but we don't have the expertise. So we can ask people from Indonesia or Malaysia to come and help us grow palms. There are technical skills available in Pakistan which are not available elsewhere. So basically, we can do these exchanges at the local level, bypassing the state. And we can also create education networks. Similarly, there are Islamic schools in all over the Islamic world. So we can exchange students. We can send people from our local Islamic school to an Islamic school in Sudan or in Egypt or in other parts of the world, where so that the people learn about each other and build linkages within the community without involving the government. Uh, Now, one of the things that is very important is money. People do not understand the nature of money. And today, money is based on fraud and deception. Basically, it is like the crypto coin. There's an advanced technology behind it, but there is no human face. So basically, originally, money is basically trust. I do something for you, and I know that you will keep track and you will do something for me if the opportunity arises. It doesn't need to be, I don't need to write a note of IOU. So, for centuries, during the Islamic world, when it was dominant, we had many kinds of systems for international finance. Hundi and Hawala is even now it is possible, but it is very low level and not very efficient. But these systems were created not on the basis of technology, but on the basis of trust. People know each other and people trust each other. Even today, if you travel in the Islamic world, you will find that people will, according to the Islamic rule, be hospitable, especially during the journey for Hajj. Today, the airplane has finished this, but people would travel on the land in the months before the Hajj, and everywhere the tourists, the people who were traveling for Hajj, any city they would go, the whole city would go and do hospitality, take care of them, and provide for them because they wanted to participate in the reward for the Hajj. So today, all over the Islamic world, still Muslims are very hospitable and friendly. So this hospitality, this friendliness, this trustworthy, this is what we want to build a financial system on. This is how it was done. Today, we have blockchain. The blockchain is a computer, and you trust the computer, but you don't trust the human being. So this is the thing that we need to build an Islamic financial system built on knowledge of people. This man, he will never tell us a lie and he will never be dishonest. So this is the kind of system we need to build, and these systems did exist in the past and they can be revived. So if we work on it, we can create a Islamic currency for the trade between the Ummah without involving the governments. Why? Because as we have seen from first generation, the governments are sold to global capitalism. So they will not do this. And they will not be so, but we can do this for ourselves. Just like the blockchain and the crypto, they were created by private individuals. So we can create our own Islamic currency. And one important thing to do is to realize that this is not gold. A lot of people are thinking that the way to revive Islamic currency is by using dinar and dirham, gold and silver. But this is not the right path. And I have discussed and explained why in other papers, but this is not my topic, so I'm not going to explain further. Basically, the currency is built on trust and not on gold and silver. If you use gold and silver, you're not trusting. You're trusting the gold and silver, not the person. So, if we can create this, and it can be done partially, there is lots of ideas of local community currencies. Bernard Lee Tyer and many other people have written books on how we can create new currencies based on community. And many of these have been created and have been very successful. So one needs to think along those lines. But since this is a complex topic, I won't go into the details here. But if we can do that, we can create integration and solidarity in the ummah, bypassing the states. One thing it is important to understand is that these states were created with the explicit purpose of dividing the ummah and making us fight each other. And this has been very successful today. For ever since World War II, Muslim world has been fighting each other. Iran and Iraq. Today, Pakistan and Afghanistan are fighting each other, and Saudi and Qatar and everywhere all around the world, we see Muslims fighting each other. And Allah Ta'ala says in the Quran that if you stay united, your enemies cannot overcome you. But if you fight each other, then you will lose the help of Allah. So, since the nation states were created to divide us, we have to bypass them and unite the ummah without taking control of the states. So, as we work on this system, many problems, many challenges will arise. In particular, there are a lot of people who make a lot of benefits from the way the current system is. So we have to build public pressure to create change. In particular, if we think about Islamic banks, we have to get the ulama, the scholars, the intellectuals to say that, look, if you're going to call yourself Islamic, be Islamic. What is Islamic? Islamic means that you are working for the sake of the ummah, not for your personal profits. So, changing the mission of the Islamic banks from making money to serving the ummah, this is a critical change, and it can be done by creating public pressure, by engaging the ulama, and by bringing pressure on the banks to say that, okay, if you're just profit making, you're not helping the community, you're not helping the Muslims, then just change your name. Don't use the word Islamic. Just call yourself a normal bank. If you're going to use the name Islamic, then you have to do Islamic things. And so that's one thing. And then the Islamic banks will be working with the communities, and we have to energize the communities. This is a hard task. Mobilizing the community is difficult because today we are all influenced by the West and we are living individual lives. The goal of everyone, every single person, is to build a good life for himself or herself. They don't care about their neighbors. They say, I should have the biggest house, I should have the biggest car. So this is wrong. You have to say, how can everybody in my neighborhood have transportation? How can everybody live comfortably? And if your house is twice as big as the rest, then you should reduce your house and provide service to the others. And similarly, in all ways, if you have more than what you need, instead of using it for luxury, you should use it to help others. In the Quran, it says, the people ask how much we should spend, and say, "Qul al-af," say what is in excess. So whatever is more than what you need, you should spend on others who are in need. The capitalism teaches us the opposite. It says that you should use all your money for yourself, and you should have a luxury meal in a nice hotel for hundreds of dollars, even if the children who are serving you the plates are starving, are they hungry. So it makes you selfish, but actually we need to be thinking about the solutions. And how do you build community? There are two very important adab that we need to learn, which we have forgotten. One is the adab of shura, and the other is the adab of munazara. The shura, how do you get together and discuss with each other and come to solutions, there is a very important set of etiquette. I learned this in the movement of Tabligh. When you go out in Jama'ah, then they discuss these adab, and then you can teach these adab to your people in your home, in your community, because these are Islamic etiquettes and they are not taught anymore. But the Quran says, Amrahum Shura Bainahum. So the Shura is our Islamic method, but nobody knows it. And Munazara, you see, in English debate, we argue with each other and we try to win the argument. I say, I am right, and the other guy says he is right. But in Munazara, we are searching for the truth. I say, I think this is true, but maybe you are right. And you say, no, my view is this, but maybe you are right. Let us try to find out what is the truth together. So the Munazara is very different from the debate. It is still an argument, but it is different. It is not for winning or losing, it is for trying to learn the truth. And
Uh,
in terms of mobilizing communities, there is a lot of work which has
Excuse
been
me,
done
Prof.
around the world. How do you build community? In Pakistan, we have a lot of experience in building communities, and I think everywhere. So there is a lot of learning that needs to be done, but it is hard work. It is not very easy to build community, but that is the first step to solve the problem. So we try to see, the problem has been that we are trying to change the whole nation. It is too big. Try to change your neighborhood. This is still quite difficult, but it is something you can do. So work on what you can do instead of chasing impossible dreams. So we are coming to the end of the start. You are students. What can you do? So one of the things is that you can learn third generation Islamic economics. That's the theoretical part. And then start working on your own community. Build your own Munazamatul Khidmatul Jama'ah. If you go to your masjid, you will see that there are people who are working. If you are a female, you can organize the women in your neighborhood to start with a Quran circle. But don't stay, okay, we will study the Quran all our life. Put the Quran into practice. Try to do initiatives. Ask who are the people who are hungry in our neighborhood, make sure that they get food. Who are the people who are illiterate, make sure they get education. Who are the people who are unemployed, make sure that they get productive employment, and so on. So the women have their own organization, the men have their own organization. Together they work to solve the problems of the neighborhood. And
Excuse me, Prof. Uh, Excuse me, Professor Asad
yes,
Zaman. Maybe I want to remind you if the time's 3 minutes left.
yeah, okay, I'm almost at the
Okay,
end.
thank you, Prof.
This is the last slide. So you should be personally an example, adopt a simple lifestyle that reflects Islamic values, and spread the message. So Islamic message is Islamic economics is not a theory; it is an activity, it is an action, and change starts with myself, my family, my community. A capitalist economy thinks of the world as a jungle of competition. An Islamic economy is bound by love. We love each other because we are all one family. So, the goal of Islamic economics is to provide service to humanity for the love of God, not to make profits. We take small actions, and that leads to big change. This ummah has great potential, and if we make the right effort, we can change the world. That's it. Okay. So that's the end of my lecture.
Okay, Alhamdulillah. Thank you, Professor Dr. Asad Zaman, for sharing your valuable knowledge with us. Okay, dear friends, let's not let this opportunity go to waste. Please feel free to raise your hand and share your thoughts or question regarding today's topic. You can either raise your hand or write your question in the comment section. We are excited to announce that there will be three e-wallet bonus for the best questions. Okay, maybe can write it in the comment section or raise your hand and we will pick you to give the question. Okay, okay, Fahmi. You can ask your question.
Okay, thank you for the opportunity, Professor Asad. So you have explained about the implementation of the third generation of Islamic economics. And I would like to ask, what are the main challenges in the development of Islamic economics and who plays a significant role in its development and implementation? Thank you.
Okay, so um, you are the people, the youth, who will be developing this theory. So, as I said, theory and society change together. So, as we work, we will things will start changing, and we will adjust our theories according to the change. So, currently there is a small body of theory, and we will work on looking at. We will try different initiatives. This is called that 1,000 flowers bloom strategy. So there are thousands of neighborhoods around the Islamic world. We will try different kinds of models, and maybe different kinds of models will be suitable for different communities according to how that community is organized, what their capabilities are. So basically, um, there is not going to be. You see, Western economic theory says, okay, this is the economic theory, and it's the same all over the world. But we say no, it's different everywhere. So your neighborhood may have a different economic theory, and mine may have different. Because, for example, in my neighborhood, there are lots of big houses and they have big lawns. So we can say that, okay, let's try to start a garden in every house, and we will grow enough vegetables and fruits to feed our neighborhood. But your may be a tight neighborhood in the urban with a apartment complex, so you can't do that. So there are many other things you can do. So you have to think about your own neighborhood and develop your own theory. And as the change, but we have some general principles that we are trying to build self-reliance, so that especially thinking about climate change, we want to make sure that if climate changes terribly, we will still be able to survive. So maybe we should put up our own uh, solar paneling generators so that we can build our own energy. And maybe we should dig wells so that we can create our own water. And maybe we should do hydroponics so that we can grow our own food. So it depends on where you are and what you are. But there is a goal: self reliance. We don't want to ask others for help. And especially, we don't want to depend on Western technology, because that can be withdrawn. And actually, in terms of the computer technology, a lot of this technology is uh, uh, creates dependence. If they withdraw this technology, then we will suffer. So we have to build our own systems which can work and function without help from outside. So self reliance is key, and simple lifestyles. If we don't participate in capitalist economy, we can't be very rich. We can't drive huge luxury cars, and we cannot have um, large amounts of property. So we learn to live simply with minimum needs and comfortable lives, but not luxurious lives. Right? I hope that answers your question. Yes,
Okay,
Fahmi.
thank you, Professor.
You're welcome.
Okay, maybe the other can send the question via column chat or can raise your hand. Okay, Fabian, you can ask your question now.
Okay, thank you for the chance for me to speak in this forum. Good afternoon, Prof. Asad. I'm Fabian Rusmenka. I'm from the University of Indonesia. I'm here. I want to ask you a question about something that I've been thinking about. In class, we learn about a thing called Qard al-Hasan. I think it's like a form of loans that has, the intentions without any form of interest. And as you said before, we need to maybe we can develop our communities from the people, like from the communities first, then we can go through the government. But the thing is, I think, I mean, I want your take on this because in Indonesia, I think, as maybe is written on the headlines a couple of weeks ago, that we have a lot of corrupt officials in Indonesia, especially maybe in the government. And I've been trying to think about a way to bypass that and to build within your plans, which is within the communities. But I haven't had any ways to bypass it because I think, in a way, even though we want to build through communities, I think like licenses and any other permissions, we need to go through the government. So, is there any way to like maybe focus on communities then towards the government? Is there any takes on you? Thank you, Prof.
Yes, this is a very good question. In Pakistan, about 20 years ago, Dr. Amjad Saqib launched microfinance, Qard Hasan, zero interest loans, especially giving loans to people who wanted to use it for business so that they would become self sufficient later. So, what he did was he had only a little amount because microfinance requires little amount of money. You start with 5,000 rupees. He would go to a masjid and sit in the masjid and ask for if anybody needed money for some productive purpose. And then, if people wanted a loan, they would give them a loan at zero interest and say, okay, you have to return this in 1 year or 2 years, whatever. And the people in the masjid community would be guarantors. Then they would all sit together, so the transaction would be done in front of them, and so they would. And so this didn't involve any government. So it started very small with very small amount of money. He could manage it personally. When people found out that he was doing this, then people started to get, okay, you can use our money for this purpose. And so gradually, today it's the biggest microfinance organization, Akhuwat, in Pakistan, and it has given loans to millions of people in Pakistan, and it has changed millions of lives, and without involving the government. So governments are corrupt everywhere in the world, not just in Indonesia, in Pakistan, but also in the USA and UK, and they're doing just terrible things around the world. So we don't want to, yani, if you basically people say, okay, let's fix the government first, and then that will never happen, so they don't have anything to do. There's lots of things we can do if we just ignore the government. You don't need licenses. Or the sometimes Akhuwat is big, so there is a structure for NGOs and for non-profits, and you can apply for permits and you can get them, because once you start something and it becomes strong, then there are enough good people that they will help you to get the things. And also you can use public pressure. If the government, if there's a large movement and it has popular support, then the corrupt people have difficulty in suppressing it. Especially if their profits are not certain, then they don't mind.
Okay, thank you so much, Prof.
You're welcome.
Okay, is there anyone want to ask a question again? You can share it in column section or you can raise your hand. Okay. Prof, maybe I want to ask a question about that you can tell about us about the economic. And I want to know currently one of economic disease in Ummah is poverty. This also makes them to find money as soon as possible by applying online loans, which has high interest. Do you have any recommendation how to solve this condition of Ummah, not for preventing, but for solving this condition? Even many zakat instruction are refused to help them as government. Okay, thank you, Prof.
You see, the experience around the world, Yunus in Grameen Bank. See, the reason that people charge high interest and also don't do microfinance is because the overhead cost is very high. If you are trying to give a loan to somebody for a small amount like 10,000 or 100,000 rupees, the overhead cost involves trying to verify, is this person honest? Is his business going to succeed? A lot of very detailed information which is very hard to get. And that's why banks don't do microfinance. So, what the experience of Grameen was that if you go to the community, don't give loan to a person, don't give loan to an individual, give loan to the whole community. So the community as a whole has knowledge of their own people. Somebody is in my community, I know this person is very expert, this person is lazy, this person is dishonest. Within the neighborhood, you have the knowledge. So you know who is trustworthy, who, if you give the money to, he will make it productive use of it and he will return. So basically, if you it can't be done online because the basically the Islamic method is person to person, face to face. Trust, honesty, integrity. Don't trust in machines, trust in people. So if you transfer the operations to the community can tell which project is going to succeed, which is going to fail, who are the diligent people. So basically, if you have relationship between banks and Islamic communities, the communities provide the guarantees and take responsibility that we will take care of any problems. And even if somebody is becoming slack, the community can pressure him that, look, you have to shape up because it is the matter of the reputation of all of us, not just you. And so this works. I mean, Grameen gets 99% or more returns. The same is true in Akhuwat, microfinance in Pakistan. As long as you work on communities, you get very high return rates. And so SME loans, etc., they can all be handled by this methodology. Yes.
Okay, thank you so much, Prof, for the answer. And maybe because you all have discussed enough for question, I will close Q&A session and move to the next agenda. Okay, the answer question will be asked by the committee to the speaker if anyone wants to ask again. And as a form of gratitude from BSI to Professor Dr. Asad Zaman, we have prepared a certificate for you. Okay, please, the operator. Okay. All right. I will read the documentation and the host can take a screenshot, please. Okay. Everyone can prepare and I will give 3, 2, 1. Okay, again. 3, 2, 1. Okay, let's 3, 2, 1. All right. Okay, maybe the operator or host can take down the share screen to documentation we all participants. Okay. Okay. Maybe teman-teman boleh bersiap-siap dulu. Prepare yourself, entire your hijab and anything else. Okay. Well, ready to take the photo. I will let the documentation. Okay, and I want to host can screen capture, please. Okay. Okay, I will start. 3, 2, 1. Again. 3, 2, 1. Okay, and last. 3, 2, 1. Alhamdulillah, thank you so much. For to all participants, let's thanks for Professor Dr. Asad Zaman for his valuable knowledge. Wow, thank you very much for Professor Dr. Asad Zaman for valuable knowledge that has been shared to us with us. Hopefully, we can learn and apply it to our daily activity to increase barakah in this life. If Professor Dr. Asad Zaman has other activities, feel free to leave the Zoom meeting. Thank you, Professor.
Thank you.
Okay, everyone. The next session is quiz, guys. The quiz must be conducted in live session today. Please fill in the quiz as well as the attendance that the committee has shared in the Zoom chat column. And the share screen show the quiz and attendance. So we give you 10 minutes for to complete the quiz. We make sure you guys to submit this quiz. Good luck. Okay. Maybe for all the participants can take a screenshot first because I want to remind you guys that the deadline for filling out the quiz until 14:15. So you guys can filling out the quiz and attendance. So we will wait you to complete the quiz until the time. All right. Okay, everyone. Now it's time to move on the next part of our agenda. First, I'd like to thank all of you who actively participate in today's discussions, and your contribution have been fantastic. Okay, now let's take a moment to recognize those who asked the most thoughtful and insightful questions. After carefully reviewing all the submission, we have decided the top question for today. And now it's time to announce the top questioners after carefully considering all factors. And the best questioners for today are Fahmi Atalah Rahmat and Fabian Rusmainka Pane. Okay, to those who participate of mention, please reach out the learning facilitators to claim your reward. For the two participant ask question in this session, can send me your number WhatsApp and thank you. Alright, the time has come to wrap up today's agenda. And first of all, I want to sincerely thank all the friends from the BSI Scholarship Prestasi who have actively participated throughout the sessions. I also want to express my gratitude to all the stakeholders who have made this event possible. Bank Syariah Indonesia, BSI Maslahat, and the BSI Scholarship, Prestasi Team, and all the learning facilitators. Before we conclude, let's take a moment to reflect and close the session together. Let's recite Hamdalah and a prayer for seeking forgiveness after our gathering. Alhamdulillahirrabbilalamin, astaghfirullahalazim, subhanakallahumma wa bihamdika, asyhadu an la ilaha illa anta astaghfiruka wa atubu ilaik. Please forgive me if I made a many mistake on my words or actions today. I'm Kartika Putri Dewayani, your master of ceremony today. Thank you once again for being a part of these sessions. And I look forward to seeing you in the next meeting. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.